Snoqualmie Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to thank you all for attending and introduce our moderator, Brian Hurley with Hurley Media Group. We're doing a live recording tonight, graciously provided by Hurley Media. Thank you for being a premier choice of advertising needs and having a team of seasoned professionals who have successfully placed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of advertising within our community.
Well, thank you for reading that right. Hey everybody, my name is Brian Hurley and I'll be moderating tonight. And hold on while I find my place real quick. Really excited to be here and wanted to thank everybody in advance for being polite and kind and good listeners and supporters of all of our candidates that we have here on stage. Quickly, I'll introduce the candidates here. We have for the Snoqualmie City Council, we have Carson Mastis, we have Lewis Washington, Dr. Kat Cotton, Dr. Mandeep Walia, and Rob Watton. And for the Mayor of North Bend position, we have Mary Miller and Rob McFarland. And for the City Council of North Bend, we have Christina Rustick, we have Brendan Elwood, Jason Ritchie, Heather Colin, and we have Errol and Susan, who weren't able to join us today on the North Bend side, and Kara, who wasn't able to join us on the Snoqualmie side. So quickly, some thank yous. Thank you to Kevin and Beth Burrows, the owner of the North Bend Theater, for hosting our event tonight. Can we get a round of applause for them, please? I want to thank those who submitted questions in advance, and thank you to Kelly Coughlin, who is not able to join us tonight. I'm going to move the microphone real quick. Hold on just 1 second. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit of a ring here. There we go. If I stand over here, I think we're going to be okay. Kelly Coughlin, the Chamber CEO, who is unfortunately not able to join us tonight. I'd like to thank Brittany Larson, who has volunteered a lot of her time tonight, and you might see her running on stage and running off stage. We have Kimmy Carlson with the Chamber there, and we have Michelle Catway, our timer. I said it wrong though, didn't I? Catois. It's such a fancy way to say it, and I said it so wrong. Thank you. The questions for our candidates today are top secret and have not been seen by any of the candidates. They were developed from questions submitted in advance from Living Snoqualmie readership, citizen input, and from the Chamber Board's knowledge of the hot topics in North Bend and Snoqualmie. No questions tonight will be taken from the audience. The Chamber's mission is to provide providing candidate forums is to provide a venue for candidates to share their ideas and perspectives on the important issues and for the audience to be able to compare and contrast candidates and make informed voting decisions. And we hope we accomplish that today. Our responsibility today is to ensure adequate time is given to the candidates to answer questions important to you so that we can we ask you, to refrain from applause or comments so that we can devote all of our time to questions and answers. Don't worry, because at the end of this forum, there will be a chance for you to applaud and thank the candidates. Tonight, we are also live streaming this forum on Facebook Live. If everybody could turn around and wave to the cameras at the Facebook Live audience. Our purpose in doing so is to allow those who cannot be here in person tonight to hear from the candidates and, again, become more informed voters. We ask for those of you on the internet not to comment on Facebook during the live feed, as we are here to listen to the candidates, not to engage in a debate or distract attention. All right. Let's start with our Snoqualmie candidates, and we have them on stage here. Quick note before we get going, the format of tonight is each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. We have our lovely timer, Michelle, right here. She'll hold up a yellow sign when you have 20 seconds of your 2 minutes left, and she'll hold up the red card when your time is up. And we ask that everybody adhere to those rules, and there will be severe consequences if you don't. I'm just kidding. There will be no consequences, but please don't. And we know you're as motivated as we are to be fair and provide adequate time to answer, so please watch for those cards. So let's start, and we'll start here on the right and head over, my right, that'd be you, and we'll head over to the left, and each candidate with 2 minutes to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their candidacy.
Hello, I'm Kat Cotton, or Catherine Cotton is the legal form of that, but I'm one of the candidates that's vying for position number 5 on the council. Some of you know me, some of you don't, but I'm a longtime resident of Snoqualmie. Almost 22 years. I've lived in the downtown corridor, so I've seen quite a few changes occur within our city and as well as the valley as well. Going from like 1,100 population in downtown Snoqualmie to 11,000 overnight. And so things have, I think we're finally kind of catching up with all of that, as well as the continued increase in our population. During this time, I have been, from my vocation for the past 25 years has been as a small animal veterinary practitioner and surgeon. I've just recently retired from that, and I also am so that was 25 years. For the 20 years before that, I was a paramedic firefighter. I retired from that. But I'm still an active EMT, a firefighter with Snoqualmie Fire Department, also one of their lead instructors for the past 20 years, and continue to work with Snoqualmie Fire, Snoqualmie Firefighters Association, and put on many of our local community events, teach classes to the public, did multiple vaccine clinics, and am looking forward to continuing to serve the city and valley. Thank you, Michelle.
Perfect timing. All right, we'll go next.
Oh, goodness. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I am Mandeep Walia. Most of you will know me as Minu, actually, out in the community. I am an internal medicine physician. My focus is on acute care medicine, and I'm a frontline worker. I am currently also the program for all-inclusive care for the elderly. It's a really long title. Medical director, and I help seniors to age in place. It's a Medicare Medicaid program, so a lot of policy and regulation. I am a native Washingtonian and have moved to Snoqualmie 8 years ago with my husband and my 3 children. I have 1 child in elementary, 1 in middle school, and 1 in high school. We immediately fell in love with the city when we moved. We turned right on the Parkway. So much so that we've moved my aging parents here as well, who are also in the audience. And my plan is to grow old and retire here. So I am highly invested in ensuring that our city remains economically vibrant, sustainable, and inclusive. I have been very publicly engaged, either through volunteer service, school activities, sports activities, and I would like to make a larger impact by serving on the city council and further engaging and addressing the concerns of the residents here. My background as a physician, mother, daughter to immigrant parents, and small business owner gives me an all-encompassing and unique insight into the various needs of the community, and I hope to bring a new and diverse perspective to the City Council. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you very much. And next?
All right, I guess that's me. So my name's Carson Maestas. I just want to start off by thanking the Chamber for hosting this event. It's a great opportunity for us candidates to share our platforms and to be able to connect with the community. I especially want to thank Beth and Kevin for keeping this place going for the last 15 years, especially the last couple of years that have been really tough. While this building is only 1 story, there are 1,000 stories that have been shared here. All of them written by writers, actors, other creatives who put so much of themselves into their work, and it's such an amazing place to have that contributes to the small town feel of the valley. So a little bit about me. I was born in Texas, raised in Eastern Washington. 9/11 happened while I was a senior in high school, so I joined the Marines the following summer. After I headed out on a deployment to Iraq when I was 20. When I came back, I went to school, met the love of my life, got married, started my career. In 2012, I moved from the eastern side of the state over to here, kind of bounced around Puget Sound a little bit, and then finally in the last 5 years, we decided that Snoqualmie was the place that we wanted to put our roots down and to raise our family. We couldn't be happier with the place that we're at. So a little bit about me and my career. So I'm a contracts and procurement manager. So it's my job to be the one to be the steward of our company's money and to make sure that when we want to either buy a piece of equipment or software, that we follow the process, and invariably it's a process that requires being the intermediary between a lot of other people. The platform that I have is basically about revitalizing the historic downtown district, fostering a creative environment that allows artists to thrive, and then keeping Snoqualmie safe by working with the police department. Thank you.
Thank you. And Rob?
Thank you. Good evening. I've had the pleasure of serving on the Snoqualmie City Council for almost the last 2 years, and now I get to run for a full 4 years. A little bit about myself. I've served almost a decade on the Snoqualmie Economic Development Commission, working on affordable housing, SR 18 improvements, and now more recently, my activities also include being on the Public Safety Committee for the city, being the representative to Meadowbrook Farm Association from the council, and also on the Regional Law, Safety, and Justice Committee, where I serve as one of 8 council members from King County's 38 cities. So it gives me a good perspective of what's going on in the other cities and be able to advocate for what we need here to keep our communities safe. And it's been an extreme honor. I've spent almost 25 years here in the Valley, and having a chance to serve has been very special to me. But I'm also encouraged by the candidates that are here tonight. I think it's really important having a vibrant community and bringing in as many viewpoints as possible. And by going through this process, we end up with a stronger city government as a result. So thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I want to say thank you for the Chamber for facilitating our discussion tonight. And I want to thank everyone for being here. This is really inspiring. I can't see everyone. I can see your heads. But just thank you for being here on such a rainy night, and it shows your dedication to the community. So my name is Lewis Washington. I am currently a Snoqualmie City Council member. I was appointed earlier this year. I moved to Snoqualmie in 2018. My fiance, Angela, and I are proud parents of a Dachshund Cocker Spaniel mix. Her name is Evelyn. We love taking her on walks in our beautiful community. And, you know, it's just such a beautiful community. Love taking Evelyn on walks, connecting with the neighbors, and connecting with the overall community. Prior to my appointment to the Snoqualmie City Council, I served on the Economic Development Commission, as well as the Affordable Housing Task Force, helping our community navigate complex challenges. I've sought to facilitate open communication and apply real-world problem-solving skills. I have over 18 years of sales and marketing and management experience in the medical device industry. I am humbled and honored for the opportunity to be serving on your city council this year. With your support, I am seeking to continue my service, protecting our city's amazing quality of life, and working with other leaders to find solutions.
Thank you very much. We're going to dive into our first question. And Lewis, we're going to start with you, and each candidate will have an opportunity to answer the question. And we're going to start with Lewis and then work our way back down the table this way.
Fell down.
And microphone handling was the first portion of the evening.
I need an operator's permit.
Okay, here's the first question. The city of Snoqualmie currently has a $161.5 million budget and about 90 employees. What experience or training do you have to either set policy for or to oversee an operation of this size? And Lewis, we'll start with you.
Okay. So I would start off, sorry, can everyone hear me? I would start off and just kind of reflect to my experience in business and working in small business, but working with large companies and kind of like most of you, moving up through the ranks as kind of a territory manager and then as a district manager and now on a regional level with working with very complex budgets, right, from a capital perspective and an operating perspective, but also, working with different dynamic departments like marketing and the sales organization that we have, and really having, over the course of my career, I'm just kind of thinking about this here off the cuff, I've probably had over 80 employees reporting to me at once. So I would say having that experience, but I would also say specifically my experience this year of being on the Snoqualmie City Council. I've learned a lot about the operating budget, the different fund sources for the operating budget, then looking at our CIP budget, the different fund sources for that, and how we prioritize our different programs, the different projects that need to be done. So I think I would just kind of lump in my business experience with the more recent experience I have working with the council, and I would say that, through that experience and again, keeping open communication, always learning from others, right, other leaders, and learning how to solve and how to navigate difficult challenges, but continuing to stay open, but drawing back on that experience.
Thank you. Rob?
Thank you. So I had the opportunity of being involved in a lot of nonprofits, and the one that comes to mind is I was treasurer of Encompass for 3 years, and we went through some challenges in the HR side that kind of fell on my shoulders, and we also had a cash crunch issue. We didn't have enough money in the bank to make payroll. We had to borrow for payroll. So when I became treasurer, we changed the policies. We were able to raise salaries through the course of that, but we had to make some tough challenges or tough decisions. And the same is true with city government, is that we are capped on the amount of taxes that we receive. It's 1% a year. And so there are always going to be pressures to have the level of services we all enjoy while making sure that our employees are adequately paid, that they're retained, and that we can do that within the constraints of the budget. And that's where I bring my business knowledge to this position, is figuring out how do we grow the revenues without taxing the taxpayers more. And you do that through smart growth. You do that through business development. And that's part of the reason why I've been so involved in economic development. And that's one of the skills that I hope adds to my ability in this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Carson?
Thank you. Thank you, Rob, by the way. So for the last 15 years, my career has been in procurement and contracts, primarily for large businesses. And to kind of contextualize this a little bit, it's whenever that someone needs something, whether it's equipment like software or they need to hire someone for their services, It's my job to make sure that they follow the processes, that we've done our due diligence, and that we put in a good faith negotiation and ensure that we're being good stewards of the money that we have. And invariably, someone's always going to be upset with you, just with all the competing interests that there are out there. And so you have to be the person to find a solution that works for as many people as possible, knowing that at the end of the day, you can't make everyone happy. And I don't think I could find a better parallel for working on a city council, to be honest. So while I haven't managed a budget of direct reports directly, it's been my job to work with the heads of the departments who have these multi-$100 million budgets for ensuring that we're buying them the equipment that they need and that we are delivering what we need to in the right amount of time, and that they're living up to what our expectations are. And I've been fortunate that I've been able to do that kind of at the individual contributor level, which has allowed me to maintain a relatively healthy work-life balance, because that my family has always been my number one priority, and that's kind of the way that I've navigated my career, to be able to prioritize it that way. But during my time that I spent in the Marines, I was the platoon sergeant for the company that we were at. At that time, I had 30 Marines that reported up to me, and now I'm out of time. So,
Thank you. Dr. Walia?
Oh, that would have been. Okay. So I was the medical director and I am also still a medical director, but I was the medical director of skilled nursing facilities prior to my current job. And at that time, I also was the team lead for the Puget Sound area, overseeing multiple skilled nursing facilities, medical directors, and other providers. My current job is a Medicare Medicaid program, which is highly regulated by CMS, Center for Medicare Services. And we are actually the insurers. So I was hired to be able to manage the budget, actually, and increase the revenue and the number of patients that we are able to see. So I am well versed in policy, regulation, managing a budget on, and being financially responsible, because, you know, we can't spend money we don't have. And so it's really important to find innovative ways to balance the budget, essentially. So currently I have about 30 to 40 people under that I supervise, and about 100 patients, which hopefully in the next year will now be 400 patients. In any job that you do, I think, you know, policy, regulation, et cetera, is not as important as, you know, basically having that effective communication and vast experience working collaboratively with various teams, which is vital when you're on the city council, and that's the experience I will bring.
Thank you. And Dr. Cotton.
All right. Well, I certainly can't compete with the city budget or number of personnel, but I want to thank our council members for, you know, what they have contributed to our city. And I am especially happy to hear from Councilmember Washington that it's possible to learn some of these things on the job. So my experience has mostly been boots on the ground. Initially as a paramedic firefighter, you know, it's getting the practical aspects of things accomplished. Coming here as a volunteer and working with the Snoqualmie Fire Department and the Firefighters Association, we did, when I was one of the officers there, become a 501c3. And so, you know, we have some responsibilities. I think as a senior citizen myself and working on a fixed income, and I was raised with the kind of the caveat, like, don't live beyond your means. And I think that applies to our city as well, to stay within our budget. In veterinary medicine, I did work with a 10-doctor practice at a hospital. We had about 50 total employees, including the doctors, with probably about a tenth of that budget. But because it was the source of revenue was families' expendable incomes, we had to come up with some very creative ways to come up with income. So I agree, not raising taxes is a very important aspect for us. We need to see if we can find other more creative solutions, and as Rob had mentioned, definitely some good things with strong economic backgrounds will help with those types of things. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. And for our second question, Dr. Cotton, we're going to start with you and work our way down the other way of the table there. So here's the second question. Is in the wake of COVID, the increase in housing prices in the Snoqualmie Valley has risen so high, it has forced our community workforce to relocate outside of the valley. What's your number one solution for affordable housing? And please defend it.
Okay. This is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart because our, amongst the many that have to commute, our public safety folks, employees, fire and police, the vast majority of them can't afford to live in the community that they serve. We have, unfortunately, we're paying our first responders, they have amongst the lowest pay in King County. And so it's just not, the housing is just not something that they can afford. So we need to look at some other alternatives. And coming from also at one point in time in my life, I did live in a community with similar type of issues. Luckily, for a while now, the Chamber has hosted the Snoqualmie Valley Affordable Housing Task Force, so I've certainly been looking into options for this. But where I was referring to is back in Maui County, where my family still lives. They have to include in any developments the a significant proportion of also smaller homes, single-family homes, homes that are tailored for seniors that allow aging in place. And also, they even have gone so far as to do subdivisions that have some of the teeny homes. And so, but they do it, there's so much demand for it, they do it by qualification. You have to qualify to be in a lottery. And so perhaps this is something that we can consider. Perhaps we can come up with other incentives as far as, tax credits or, other types of things. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Walia?
Okay, I'm going to pull this closer. I'm kind of short here and leaning forward. So, affordable housing, big hot topic, both for our workforce and our seniors. I think there's different things that we can definitely do for affordable housing. It's something we have to do, and we have to do it now. So I would first start with engaging our community. We have an abundance of contractors, engineers, architects who could guide us and provide suggestions and ideas on how to approach affordable housing. Also turning to our neighbors, nonprofit organizations, local governments, including the Snoqualmie Tribal Council, to work collaboratively to furnish innovative ideas and funding sources. We need to support the ongoing efforts already being done by our city, our state, our county, as well as the other governments on this. And some of the things we can look at is underutilized land, as well as unused buildings that can be revitalized and used for housing. Looking at incentives and tax credits or exemptions for private builders, so a portion of their building is allotted to affordable housing. We may need to make certain adjustments to our zoning laws and allow more density and mixed use development. Interestingly, I was reading this and I thought it was very interesting that the single person household in the US is on the rise to about 30%. And therefore, I think like looking at these micro units as a possible solution to lack of affordable housing, especially when our land is scarce. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't need that.
Louis?
Yeah, I'll try this time. Okay. Okay, thank you. So I'll just start off by saying this, that affordable housing is a huge concern here in Snoqualmie. I mean, all over the Puget Sound area, but specifically here in Snoqualmie. Can everyone hear me?
Mhm.
As the chair of the Affordable Housing Task Force Policy Committee, I work side by side with Councilmember Wadden here, and you know, I'll tell you, there are no easy, direct answers to it. You know, I think that we have to consider our values. We have to consider our priorities. What I can tell you that I'm really supportive of and a proponent of is looking at workforce housing. I think the doctor mentioned workforce housing, but workforce housing for our workforce in senior housing as well. And kind of some ideas that we've come up with is looking at kind of that band. I don't know if we're all familiar with AMI, area median income, but looking at that band of 50% AMI to 80% AMI, if you crunch those numbers, that's roughly 85% of our workforce here in the Valley. But being able to provide what we would call kind of middle housing or workforce housing, and that number could go up to 100 depending on 100% AMI depending on the household size. But there's also an economic development component to it that if we can have people in housing here in the Valley, I mean, just the prosperity that brings for all of us here in the Valley, a more viable economy that, you know, people can shop and spend those dollars here in the Valley and they don't have to leave what we would call retail leakage and go other places, but those dollars are spent here and makes the better for all of us.
Thank you very much. My apologies for screwing up the order here. We're going to go to Carson next.
All right. So I'll admit firsthand, I'm not an urban planning expert here, but I can promise you that I'll listen to those that are. And it's a tough situation to be in because those of us were fortunate enough to buy homes before the prices went up have seen, you know, substantial equity happen, while others are now not able to afford a place. The rents have gone up significantly, and the toughest part about it is that the population of Snoqualmie for the past 2 years has actually declined. And so it's a tough place to be in because we're trying to manage the availability of houses while balancing that against the competing forces that are really what's driving here. So that gets us to the what do we do for a solution here? And that's a tough one because we need to come up with creative solutions. And I want to tip my hat to City Council here for passing Ordinance 1297 just recently to help ease the restrictions on accessory dwelling units. So like mother-in-law apartments or something like that on a lot that could handle it. Those types of solutions are the kinds that I think are best for the community because they are able to be constructed much quicker than if we were to have a completely new construction. It's less impactful on the community and oftentimes is more affordable than a newer construction would be. So to kind of plainly state like what my goals are here, I don't want to see like major apartment complexes going in downtown Snoqualmie. I'm very, very open to hear the mixture of the possibilities we have, ranging from someone's rooftop tent or sprinter van to a yurt to anything else you can think of. I know these are like ideas that are not going to work right here, but the solution is somewhere between, and I think it requires a creative look on solutions that you wouldn't normally expect.
Thank you. And Rob?
Thank you, Brian. So I've been working on affordable housing for Snoqualmie Valley for a number of years now. So these are not my ideas. These are ideas that you've heard some of it here already, but it is a challenge. 80% of our workforce, we've got 10,000 employees between North Bend and Snoqualmie. 80% of our workforce comes from outside the valley, and we need to change that. Exactly to what Councilmember Washington said, is that that's money that we lose in revenue, because people live in one place, work in another, and then they spend money in a third place. We can change that. The challenge is we have limited land and we have limited water resources, and so there's a number of things that we can do on middle housing, which we call the missing middle, and that's anywhere from apartments, micro apartments, even looking at co-op housing. And so we have a plethora of ideas that we've garnered through our task force over the last year, and they include things like utilizing city-owned properties that we can convert over to affordable housing, infill, housing preservations of small multifamily housing units that we have already, and that was an idea that came from David Miller, actually, from North Bend, and also supportive housing. So there are a lot of things that we can approach with, and we have the opportunity, and we're moving forward on those.
Thank you. Okay, for our last question, we're going to start with Carson. And here's the last question. The city's tax base is tied to property taxes, which has a 1% cap. The cost of services, including wages, is far exceeding that. Do you believe in cutting or prioritizing services, or looking at other options for revenue, and why?
That's a pretty tough question right there, because that's a solution that no one's going to like the answer one way or the other. Either you've got to come up with creative ways to find additional sources of revenue, or you do have to make those painful cuts. And that is not what I would like to see happen. Our services that we have that are being provided by our employees they're already stretched super thin. I'll take the police department, for example. They're running a skeleton crew, and still providing services to all of us out there. And they're just one of many departments that are doing a phenomenal job of keeping the city going. The idea of cutting those services and leaving those employees without a source of income at a time like now is just the last thing that I want to do. My plan would be to find alternative ways to gather additional sources of revenue, make Snoqualmie kind of more of a place that attracts more tourists, to bring additional funding into the city. I don't feel that the best solution is to keep on developing and then rely on the 1% tax to keep the city's revenues able to offset the expenses that we're having. So, thank you.
Thank you. And Rob, would you mind answering next?
All right. These are some of the tough challenges that we have. And the mic, too. Public safety has to be one of our top priorities. And one of the challenges the city has right now, and that's retaining excellent employees. When we lose employees, we lose that knowledge base, and that's really starts with the police department. And secondly, it's our fire department and emergency services that we need to make sure that we take care of. So we have to look at competitive pay and make sure that we're adequately staffed. But the other area too is overtime. Whenever there's overtime, there's going to be more impact on families and employees. So looking at ways that we can mitigate that to help employee satisfaction is a big priority of mine. And the other thing is looking to see how we can increase business revenue as a generator of tax base for us, because the more that businesses can help offset, that puts less of a burden on us as individual taxpayers, and I think that's very important. And as we continue to be smart about our growth, keeping that in the forefront is going to be very important. And lastly, it's how we budget and prioritize, and that comes back to the council, making sure that we are asking the right questions and that we have the right metrics in place so that we can track how money is being spent.
Thank you.
Back to you, Brian.
Thank you. Back to you. Very news desk of you. Dr. Cotton.
All right, if you guys are done joking around down there. All right, as has been noted, this is a very, very tough question. None of us wants to raise taxes. And for those of us, again, I'll harp on, I'm a senior citizen now, that, I'm on a fixed income. And so these are things that I have to budget for. And so, just arbitrarily raising taxes is not something I want to see. I also agree with several of the points that have been brought up and I touched on earlier. Keeping our city employees, there's many departments we actually have to bring up to staff that they are understaffed. The police have been working mandatory overtime, 12-hour shifts since 2012. Fire department, the last 5 or 6 years, mandatory overtime. It's burning people out so much, and we're running short. The people are transferring to other departments outside of the city. People are, looking for better quality of life, because if all of a sudden there's training, somebody's out on an injury, then that just throws everybody else into overtime. So it's a vicious cycle, and what it does is, not allow us to get people well and get them back to work in a timely fashion. And so it just, this vicious cycle continues on. And I'm not sure that raising wages is going to be the thing that does it. There may be other alternatives for, funding to go to some of the departments. Fire department does generate revenue based on their number of transports to the hospital. That just goes into the general fund. It doesn't go back to the department. So of course, we're always in overtime budget deficit. So anyway, I know the sign's going to come up, but I have so much more to say on this.
Thank you. And Lewis.
Okay. Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So, thank you. It's a complex topic, and I'll start here. I love our quality of life here. It's an amazing quality of life. We have an amazing environment, and I want to keep it that way. We're going to see growth. I think part of that is we really manage for smart growth. How do we do that? I think we have to reevaluate our values, and I think we have to focus in on our priorities. So I can tell you that Representative Callan was here and Representative Ramos from the state level were here. And this very issue, we had a conversation with them effectively lobbying of the increase of the 1% sales tax, because it is an issue. But there are some other things that we can do. The other part of because that's the operating budget. So that's the major part of the operating budget, I'd say 70%, 75%. The other quarter of it is sales tax and B&O. That kind of gets back to the conversation around the economic development piece, the retail leakage. I just had a story with a gentleman, couldn't find a product, went into Issaquah to find the product. Guess what? He ended up having dinner there, he and his wife, and they went shopping at the Safeway in Issaquah. Retail leakage. If we could kind of grow our economy in a diversified way enough to keep people here in the valley, again, we get to bring in those dollars, they stay here, we get to crunch those dollars. That increases the revenue from the sales and the B&O tax, and it's prosperity across the valley. So I think I would kind of start there in evaluating it.
Thank you. And Dr. Walia.
I'm going to echo what everybody said. This is a very difficult topic. Nobody wants their property taxes increased. Right now, things are just unaffordable. Food is unaffordable, gas is unaffordable. The last thing we want to do now is tell somebody that, okay, we're going to increase your taxes. But then we can't lose our service workers. So I think it's really about trying to find other solutions, as everybody's up here has said, is, can we increase our economic vibrancy? Can we help our small businesses? Because that's really where, our money's going to come from. So bring in tourists. How about we host tournaments, which brings in year-round events and year-round business? Something we haven't really looked into much. And I can tell you sports will bring in all sorts of people here year-round. And really looking at different ideas. Can we be the most dog-friendly city in Washington? So this will really attract people here, and that's what we need to try to balance between losing our service workers and increasing taxes, coming together with and looking at other funding. Can we get state funding? Can we get grants? Can we talk to other county and see what they can do? Can we be a CDC will give money if you're a drug-free community? Can we obtain money that way? So I think looking at other funding sources to try to keep our service here without increasing taxes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, at this time, each candidate will get 2 minutes to summarize their campaign again, and we will start at the end there with Lewis and work our way to Dr. Cotton. Lewis.
Try it again, third time's a charm. So as part of the Snoqualmie City Council and through my various other services, I have actively helped our community navigate complex challenges. In carrying out my commitment to our community, I have sought to facilitate open communication and apply real-world problem-solving skills. With your support, I will continue progress on smart, affordable housing that protects the character of our community while meeting our growing needs. I will prioritize on public safety between law enforcement, first responders, service providers to ensure a safe and healthy Snoqualmie. I will also lead on environmental sustainability, small business for economic development support that has kept Snoqualmie one of the best places to live. And I'd be honored to earn your vote.
Thank you. Rob?
Thank you. I want to thank the Chamber and Beth and Kevin Burrows for hosting us this evening, as they're so generous in our community. I'm going to continue my work listening to people, bringing people together, looking for solutions, and keeping an open mind how we can best serve each other. Government works best when it's closest to the people, and certainly being on the city council, that gives us an opportunity to be your voice, and you deserve to be heard. I want to make sure that we're inclusive in making sure that we have a diversity of opinions, and that we do so in such a way that helps to preserve and honor what we've already built here in the valley, and just continue to provide what we've all enjoyed, and just do it in a very smart and honorable manner. And I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And Carson.
Okay. So I just want to kind of go back to what my platform's all about. And so it's the three core tenets of it are revitalizing the historic downtown district and ensuring that the coming development happens in a responsible manner that preserves the town's small town charm. Number two is fostering an environment that allows artists to thrive. And three is keeping Snoqualmie one of the safest communities in Washington by working with our local police department to retain our phenomenal officers and attract the new ones who are looking for a new duty station in King County. So the goal is to keep Snoqualmie this charming little city at the foot of the Cascades where we want to raise our families and we feel safe, and it's a place that we can nurture our creative spirits. Now, I know that the way that we're able to do that is going to require some out-of-the-box thinking combined with those that have been here and have the expertise and know how the process works when you compare it with this out-of-the-box thinking. So I want to close with, I know this is kind of a cheesy way of doing it, but a quote from a leader that I really, really respect. His name is James Mattis. And while this is a quote that's aimed at junior officers, I think we can find some parallels here that make it applicable. So it says, any competitive organization must nurture its maverick thinkers. You can't wash them out of your outfit if you want to avoid being surprised by your competition. Without Mavericks, we are more likely to find ourselves at the same time dominant and irrelevant as the enemy steals a march upon us. Further calculated risk-taking is elemental in staying at the top of our competitive game. Risk aversion will damage the long-term health, even survival of the organization because it undercuts the disciplined but unregimented thinking. Because maverick thinkers are so important to an organization's adaptability, high-ranking leaders need to be assigned the job of guiding and even protecting them, much as one would do for an endangered species. So I truly feel like my out-of-the-box thinking, which I wish I kind of had an opportunity to kind of demonstrate some of it tonight, I think that that's exactly what Snoqualmie needs at this time where we're kind of navigating some uncharted waters in the near future. And I hope that you trust me at the helm with it.
Thank you. Dr. Walia.
Okay, I have a lot to say. I'm looking at you with that red sign. So I've spent the last several months door canvassing, attending city events, visiting small businesses, meeting with the tribal council in addition to other organizations, and being a sounding board for our community. We have addressed many concerns today, and there's still a lot that we have to do. If elected, I hope to address public health and increase healthcare access and outreach, including behavioral health services, which when untreated leads to homelessness and crime. I want to be able to help our seniors to age in place here, find innovative ways to help our small businesses thrive while keeping our hometown feel. Youth is also very important to me because I have children. With the second leading cause of death in children being suicide, we need a way for them to bring their issues to the forefront. And we need more indoor recreation to help with their social, mental, and physical well-being. We want to get them excited about civic engagement because they are our future and they are the future of our city. However, my biggest priority is being transparent, open, honest, and continually being present and engaging with all of my community. And I assure you that I hear you and that your voice really does matter to me. I would like to take this time to thank everyone who has shared their thoughts with me and am humbled by those who have supported me, encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone and run for city council. I would also like to thank the Snow Valley Chamber of Commerce for arranging this candidate forum. I feel honored to sit alongside those here today who truly care and want to make a difference for our community and our city. Thank you. Oh, no red sign. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Cotton.
All right. Well, all I can say is that I'd like to kind of echo what everyone else is saying here is there's a reason we all live here. We certainly want to cultivate and preserve, not only the natural beauty around us, but the uniqueness, the charm, the character, the history, and the small town feel that we have here. It's really quite special. And working also on the Arts Commission, we've been trying to, engage more community events and activities where we can get both the local residents excited about things around the valley as well as visitors. We do need to create a strong economic base for our local businesses. We need to continue to promote a safe and healthy environment, and certainly providing for our public safety workers, doing things to help with some of the issues that go on. We need to take care of our own. And the one thing I'd like to say is I am here to listen to you. Would be your voice, your representation. That would be my job, to bring forth your concerns. And I hope you would do something for me in return, besides giving me your vote, of course. I would very much like all of you to get interested and participate in your local community with, if you haven't done the Snoqualmie Community Survey online, please go and do that. You have until tomorrow. But if you can be the one to generate ideas or bring forth, if you have a concern about something, hey, maybe come up with some solutions that we might be able to work on. It might be your answer that provides the block that we needed to make things happen. So that's my request to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You guys, let's get a round of applause for all of our candidates tonight. Not an easy feat to sit here and answer blind questions. So we're going to take just a few minutes, and we will excuse our Snoqualmie candidates and invite our North Bend candidates on up to the stage. everybody. And we are now on to the North Bend portion of our evening. Same format as before. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and then each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question, and then 2 minutes to close out a summary of their campaign. We're going to start here closest to me and work our way down the table for introductions. And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, and your 2 minutes will start as soon as you do.
Okay. Hi, my name is Heather Colon. I've been on the city council for the past 4 years. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And during that time, I've been part of making policy decisions about everything from water conservation, expanding our sewage treatment plant, expanding sewer to the west end of town, approving form-based code, and more. And on a personal note, I've lived in North Bend since 1998. I raised both my children here from preschool to high school. I've volunteered at North Bend Elementary School and had a Girl Scout troop here. I've watched this town go from being in moratorium for 10 years to recent growth that we all have been a witness to. And I've enjoyed my 4 years on council. There's a lot we can do, and I love our town, and I feel like I want to protect it and keep it as good as we can.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that. First, I'd like to thank Beth and Kevin for hosting the candidate forum here again. It's great to be up here with these fine people. Also like to thank the Chamber for bringing us together so that we can talk about some key issues. I know we won't hit every topic, but we will hit some good ones that you have harvested from the community, so well done. I'd also like to thank my daughters for giving me this branding, right? So I got a QR code and everything, so I'm really hip at this point. And with that, I'll take my jacket off. But so my kids have been super helpful in this campaign. So my name is Brendan Elwood. I moved here about 16 years ago with my wife. We came to North Bend for job reasons in Bellevue, but when we discovered North Bend, it was very reminiscent of our small town upbringing. I'm from Montana, my wife is from Michigan, and we just fell in love. Everywhere you went throughout the town, of course, it was quite different 16 years ago. You couldn't find a bad spot. So my kids went to North Bend Elementary right away within about a year of being here. I got involved with the community. I have lived in a lot of other smaller towns, California and Arizona and so forth. And what I observed happening there is what's happening here. And that is development is upon us. And it was knocking at the door 15 years ago, and now it is here like insanely. And so I wanted to get involved because I had seen what had happened to these other communities where they just let the marketplace decide how the community should look. And it erased the vibe and the feel and why we moved there. So I joined the Skyview Parks Commission. I ran for a commissioner position. I served 6 years there, served 4 years on Planning Commission. And this, if you elect me, will be my third term on City Council. My whole platform, my whole commitment to the city of North Bend has always been and will continue to be transparency, accountability, preserving and enhancing our small town character and charm, and focusing on economic development, specifically small businesses, retail, and dining out activities in arts and culture. Thank you.
Thank you.
Breathe.
I only have 2 minutes.
Well, you'll hear this from, I'm sure, all of us tonight, but of course, thank you to the theater, Beth and Kevin, for having us here, and to the Chamber for hosting, and particularly to all of you for being here with us tonight or online. Good evening. I am Mayor Rob McFarland. My family and I moved to North Bend in the late 90s. At that time, I owned and operated the largest catalog of organic cotton clothing that there was, with customers in all 50 states and many other countries. Almost since the day we arrived, I've been deeply engaged in community service. A few of those would be president of the board of Encompass, to the Meadowbrook Farm Foundation, and right on to chairing the North Bend Planning Commission for many years. Following the sale of my organic business, I worked for a couple of local home building companies, bringing amenities and quality homes to Valley communities. I'm very proud to have been responsible for overseeing the construction of dozens of parks, multiple community-wide trails, and price-restricted affordable homes. More recently, I was part of a team that built cottage homes, apartments, and quality single-family home options here in North Bend. I'm thankful that most of us are lucky enough to have shelter and to have been one who worked to provide it. As 2019 approached, I was being encouraged to run for mayor, and as support grew, I determined that as a first step, I would retire from home building so there would be no potential conflict of interest. And I did that at the end of 2018. While it cost me financially, my ethics and commitment made it the best path for transparency. We've been fortunate to live within the beauty of the Snoqualmie Valley, including our 2 girls graduated from Mount Si and went on to productive lives of their own. For those of you close to me, any mention of my granddaughter will get you a picture. I love my community as the others do, and being a public servant is a labor of love and a humbling job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christina Rustic, and I love our community, and I'm running for City Council to preserve the rich history and character of North Bend, to advocate for responsible and balanced growth, and to ensure that North Bend remains a great place for families and businesses to thrive. I grew up in the Puget Sound area and am proud to call North Bend my home for over 10 years. I'm a wife and a mother, and I have always been passionate about community service and getting involved. When my kids were younger, I was very active in the schools, the arts, and the sports programs. I was also a Girl Scout leader for my daughter's troop from elementary school through high school. Currently, I serve on the North Bend Economic Development Commission, and on a weekly basis, I am a student mentor at North Bend Elementary. I'm also involved in the Snoqualmie Valley Women in Leadership Group and have spent the past 6 years on the board of directors for my homeowners association, including the last 3 years as president. I'm a natural leader and problem solver with over 30 years of experience at Boeing, leading large organizations, managing complex projects, and working with diverse stakeholders to resolve competing interests. I believe these skills can help our community effectively address the issues and challenges ahead. As your elected council member, I will prioritize the following 4 areas: responsible planning and effective managing growth, ensuring that we have sufficient infrastructure in place and that any impacts of development are identified and mitigated. Seeking opportunities for economic development that complement and enhance the unique history and attributes of North Bend. Working to find a comprehensive and sustainable approach to affordable housing. And finally, expanding our parks, trails, and recreation activities while protecting and preserving the natural beauty of our surrounding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a lot to say, so bear with me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mary Miller, fellow candidates and wonderful people of North Bend. I am before you tonight with gratitude. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to Snow Valley Chamber for hosting this pivotal forum, and Kevin and Beth Burrows. I would like to acknowledge and express my appreciation to fellow candidates who stood up and are going forward to serve the community. Each of us shares a common dedication to making North Bend a better place. To all joining us tonight and those watching from afar through live streaming, I thank you as well. I have lived in North Bend for 32 years. I have raised 2 wonderful children to successful adulthood. Not everybody can say that, unfortunately. I am a freelance photographer, former City of North Bend photographer for many years before becoming an elected official. I also work part-time in traffic and safety. So you might see me out there on local projects from time to time over the last 7 years. Both these jobs have blended together to give me unique and valuable perspective, from aerial views of our city to literally from what occurs underground. It has further educated me as to the finer elements of local governance, all the more. I'm a planning commissioner for 5 years, and I'm serving my 4th year as your city council member, one of your city council members, excuse me. I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve you, and it is my passion. In my campaign, I emphasize 8 core pillars that I believe are fundamental to prosperity and well-being of North Bend: public safety, affordable workforce, senior housing, infrastructure, economic development, mental and behavioral health, our environment, supporting all the arts, and preserving our rural character. However, equally crucial to me is creating a culture of transparency and accountability. I envision an administration where every resident feels heard and valued. I bring strengths in long life learning, creative thinking, delegation, resiliency, relationship building, kindness, authenticity, integrity, and an open mind. These qualities will be the cornerstone of my approach as your mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jason Ritchie. I'm a partner in a custom software consultancy. Quick background on me. I was born in southern Kansas. Met my wife in high school. We've been together 22 years now, even though I look like I'm 12, I know. Been married for 17. We moved to Kansas City after high school, go Chiefs, and went to college there and got my career off the ground, started in IT. And that led me to join a startup at the time with 8 employees. Luckily, we were prosperous and now have over 450 employees. Over the years, I traveled to King County quite a bit, about every other week during the first 8 or so years of our company as we had key contracts here. And then after we had our 2 kids, my wife didn't like that as much. So after in 2018, we decided to uproot and bring our family out here. After COVID, we had the opportunity to plant roots just about anywhere in the country. And as our kids were just about to start entering school at the ages of 4 and 2 at the time, we chose North Bend as the place that we wanted to raise our kids and eventually retire. North Bend reminded us of our home in southern Kansas. We grew up in towns of 8,000 and myself 2,000 people. So it had a small town feel while still being out here by Seattle, but had all of this beauty that unfortunately we didn't get to experience living by wheat fields. My experience as a partner in my company helped me build relationships, learn to understand people better, and I hope to bring those experiences to council. Thanks.
Thank you. Now for questions, we're going to start down with Jason and work our way back to me. And I will read the first question now. Concerns have been raised within the community regarding recent growth, with some locals even calling for a halt to new development. What is your perspective on this matter, and what specific steps, if any, would you take to address these concerns?
Yeah, thank you. So I think it's important to establish that growth will happen over time. It's happened a lot more lately, but over time, the Growth Management Act has boundaries. North Bend's in one of those boundaries, and so we should expect that over the next 50 years, North Bend will add a few thousand residents. I think the real question here is, what do we want that to look like? Do we want to preserve the downtown as it is today? Do we want to ensure that nothing can block the view of Mount Si? Do we want to make sure that anything that's green space today stays green space? Are we okay with new mixed-use redevelopment in certain parts of the city but not others? We need to ask ourselves these questions and have real conversations about these things. And I mean that between council and the residents. We need to have a shared vision of what we want North Bend to be like in 20 and 30 years. And then we need to chart the path without delay. Every permit, every deal, every shovel is either taking us in the right direction or the wrong direction. So we need to figure out as a community what North Bend should look like in 20 years or 30 years when it inevitably has growth, and make sure that we are doing everything that we can day to day in every decision that's made in council to steer those things in the direction that everyone collectively wants to see.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Well, this is certainly a hot topic. The GMA requests us by state by law, in essence, to grow over the next 20 years. The units are 1748, I believe. That gives us some time, but that means we really have to think thoughtfully, with thought and with carefulness. And I do want to hear from the public. This is such a crucial communication to begin to put out there to you all. So by no means do we want to ignore what you have to say. In fact, I believe in it fully that there's a lot of creative thinking out there within our masses of fine individuals in the community that we could really grow and become something more interesting in a way as far as going forward. And when I say grow, I mean grow as a community. I'm not talking about growing in height. I'm very much aware of and wanting to keep the height maintained so we protect the mountain views that we have in our downtown. We really need to figure out where these entities of units are going to start and phase at, or are we going to change our zoning? We need to look at regulation. There's a lot to this, but we can't do it by just an entity of council and mayor alone. We need your help. And so that's where I'm going with this, just to give you a heads up, and I'll pass it along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, so as I mentioned, I've been in North Bend a little over 10 years, but I did grow up in the Puget Sound, and I have seen growth and development adversely impact the quality of life in various cities in the area. So I do think that recently we've seen North Bend grow pretty fast, and that can impact the quality of life of the residents. But along with growth, that, as some of the other members have mentioned, is going to happen, we need to take a look at what are some of the other factors that go along with the growth. And that includes making sure we have sufficient funding and staffing facilities for public safety and our first responders. We want to make sure we have safe parking, and traffic management, walkways near the schools for our students and families. We want to make sure we have adequate water and sewer capacity to support the growth and development. And we want to make sure that we're taking all of those things into consideration as we take a look at growth. And my background is intended to, I have addressed that in my career. It is all a matter of prioritizing and deciding what is the overall comprehensive plan for the city. I know they're currently in the process of doing an update of the comprehensive plan. So as that gets approved through the council, all elements of it, ensuring that we adhere to that comprehensive plan and that we don't take any deviations from it for any particular interest that is outside of what is in the best interest of the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Change is hard, and change is what this topic's really about. And the policies that guide that, you've heard a couple of them mentioned. Growth Management Act, which came out in the early 90s by the state. You've heard about comprehensive plan being mentioned. That's actually underway right now. That's where you can make the most impact, you yourself, by getting involved, sending feedback to council, to our planning commission, and to me as the mayor on what you want to see. We're 30 years in of council policy on comprehensive planning, zoning, and the standards for how things would develop. Yes, we are expected to grow. Yes, we are expected to receive more housing units over the coming 20 to 30 years. But often when you're seeing ground being broken, it's a project that may have been 10 or more years in the making. It didn't happen just the day before you saw the bulldozer. In fact, in the last 4 years, the only housing project that was approved happened to be the 7-unit Habitat for Humanity affordable housing project. And most here in the community thought that was a wonderful thing, and I certainly did. Affordable housing or stop all growth. Those are the two biggest issues that I hear as I'm talking with the community, and those things are somewhat opposed to each other, and so working through that is going to be very difficult. We are entering a quieter phase right now. We are seeing a slowdown. We are getting the opportunity to reflect and plan naturally. And I'm looking forward to working with the council in the coming year through our retreat process to plan thoughtfully on how that's going to work. What are the changes we may need? And that'll be what guides me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. When we say growth, to me, there's two types of growth. First is residential, which is where the heartache is. The second is commercial, talking about small businesses, retail experiences, shops, and that type of growth. We need more of it. We prioritized commercial growth when I first joined council 8 years ago. In fact, we put reserves in sewer capacity, water resources, and things like that to focus specifically on commercial growth. We need to continue to do that. If you take a look now where we are with respect to commercial growth, as opposed to where we were 8 years ago, we have a lot more shops. We have a lot more businesses. We have a lot more. The downtown is starting to come back. We need to do more of this. We need to focus on that particular component. With respect to residential growth, this is a tough one because we do need a variety of housing inventory, specifically affordable housing. So the number one thing we need to do is identify what kind of housing stock do we need. I say it's affordability right now. We have to prioritize affordability. And we have to do a few things to get that going. Number one, and this is something that I already put in motion as a couple months ago with the retreats that the mayor had just mentioned, is we have to get council and the administration back to the table and re-examine the vision of our community. We did this 8 years ago. We set policies in place. We put design standards, because really that's the only way you can control residential growth, is through design standards, zoning, and ordinances. And all of us aligned on the vision that we had. It was a very harmonious moment. It was excellent. And it made policy decisions easier. We said we want certain setbacks. We need buildings orientated a certain way. We need to have new developments have meandering roads. We did field trips throughout Puget Sound, looking at different communities, really identify what we need, what we want for our community. And that's what we have to do. We have to come back to the table first as leaders, understand that vision, engage the public to make sure that we are aligned with what the public wants to see, and then re-examine all the zoning policies and all of the design standards that we put in place to make sure we can close those gaps that we may have missed a few years ago, but also sharpen and write new ones that will bring us into the next step to our future. Thank you. It's a thump.
Mm-hmm. Growth. Ugh. So most of the growth that we've currently are witnessing post-pandemic, during pandemic, was planned long before I came on to council. So all the new neighborhoods, and welcome all, was planned before I came on to council. But currently the council has not improved any future housing and has instead recommended that we focus on commercial versus housing. Having said that, if a property owner wants to sell their property and that property is zoned for it, I have no right to tell them what to do with their property. As for infrastructure, Traverse and Dahlgren property, I have brought it up to our public works director. When these homes go in and people are living there and people are trying to go to Rattlesnake Lake or turn left to come down Cedar Fall Way, it's going to be, in my opinion, a nightmare. I don't know. And he said to me, that's not our road and we have to wait until it's a problem. So that is not a City of North Bend thing. That is a system problem. And if you guys can help me fix it, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, for the next question, we're going to start with Heather and then work our way down the other way of the table. So in the wake of COVID, the increase in the housing prices in the valley has risen so high it has forced our community workforce to relocate out of the valley. What is your number one solution for affordable housing, and please defend it?
Thank you, sir. I don't have a solution. So affordable housing, that is a very complicated topic. And to add to that, what is affordable and to whom? We throw around a lot of talk about 80%, 60% of King County's median income. What is that? That's a lot. That's like $100,000 and $125,000, that's not exactly what I consider affordable. I'm more excited about projects like Habitat for Humanity. I think the workforce housing could work, but we need help from the state and others, and we as a city can't do it on our own. And it's so complicated, it makes my head hurt. But I'm willing to work on it.
Thank you.
And she is. She's very collaborative. This is the topic of the day, and for better or worse, it's not just a North Bend issue. It's happening globally, I think. But specifically with North Bend, I would say the number one thing I would do, and there is no one thing. It's a multifaceted approach. It requires a lot of different stakeholders. It requires a lot of different thinking to bring this to the table, because no one has cracked this nut. No one has. But if I were to say the number one thing that we should be doing, that I want to continue doing, is exactly what we started to put in motion. Here's what I mean by this. A couple years ago, the county wanted to take some portions of our tax to put it towards homeless shelters and affordability in Seattle and Bellevue, and we acted swiftly. Thankfully, our staff caught wind of it. We were able to put some legislation down that secured those funds. I think it's 0.1%. And we put that in an affordable fund. 2 years later, we're just over $1 million on that. That's something that we did proactively. That's something that's growing. That's something that we need to continue to maintain and allocate the spending from that particular money through affordable people, to identify people who need the affordability first. And what I mean by that is it's a big problem, so we have to break it up into digestible bits. Where I like to start is our senior and fixed income individuals. They need subsidies. I mean, that's the only way affordability is really going to help these type of folks. We also have workforce service workers that just can't make ends meet on rental, on what the rents are today. So we have to start allocating some of these funds that we've secured and identify specific people that need it, and then start putting forth subsidies. In addition, thank you for that, and I'm sorry. In addition to that, we have to continue to work with our neighboring communities. There are other small towns that are going through this as well. And we need to work with them to start pushing back on the state, pushing back on King County, saying, hey, look, this is unrealistic and unreasonable. In fact, if I have time, I'll read a little bit of our preamble later that we did send forward. The other thing we need to do is more partnerships with builders and developers like we did at Traverse, where we said 20% of that housing has to be affordable. It has to run with the land, and you can't discriminate against people who need those units. So there's a lot of creative things that we're already working on. So I'd say the number one thing is we need to keep doing what we've already started.
Thank you.
Love your passion. Low and moderate income folks do struggle the worst here in the valley and beyond. And there are answers, and there are things. Councilmember Elwood just mentioned the state portion of sales tax that was offered a few years back, and that did result in a significant amount of money, and we are currently working with council to find the ways to apply that and leverage that money to put it to work here in the community. It is a matter of partnership between government, private owners, and nonprofits. That's the way you get more affordable housing. That's the only thing that I've seen. Earlier tonight, Rob Watton, council member, was up here. He was mentioning that. He's mentioning his work in an affordable housing committee that he's been in for years now. I've been to dozens of these conversations, government and private, looking for solutions, and it still comes back to that. It involves senior housing, in addition to the sales tax, and in addition to Habitat, and in addition to the apartment complex that requires 20% of those units to be held for more affordable housing. We also saved Cascade Park senior housing, 28 units back in 2020. That was a major savings, and that goes to the point of senior housing. Seniors, as well as our workforce, are in that same boat. We do have to find better ways to protect them from the cost, while unfortunately the rest of us who are more capable are going to pay a little more to make sure we take care of them. We can do it. I am actively recruiting for these projects. We are bringing those to council as we speak, looking for ways to make an impact here, and we will find the way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Some great ideas here. I feel that for affordable housing, any comprehensive and sustainable approach to affordable housing needs to address and reduce the cost to build housing, providing access and pathways to home ownership and allowing seniors to remain in their homes. Housing is considered affordable if it costs no more than 30% of a household's gross income. As one of the largest employers of the North Bend, the school district average annual salary is $62,000, which affords a $200,000 mortgage at about $1,550 a month, while the average home price is over $900,000 in North Bend. Mixed-use buildings and commercial and residential uses have become popular in some cases as effective methods to provide affordable housing in downtown business districts. However, when I looked, a one-bedroom apartment on North Bend Avenue was $2,150 per month, far above what an average school district salary could afford. So rental options are important, but our approach to housing must include pathways to home ownership, which results in personal investment in our community. The City Council needs to find ways to work with developers to build smaller 1,200 to 1,500 square foot entry-level homes more affordable to home buyers. Challenges to reduce the cost of housing include the cost of the land and the infrastructure and the cost of materials and labor during construction. I would support opportunities for the city to partner with builders on obtaining grants for land or infrastructure costs. We should also consider home designs and materials and communities like a 55 and over community to allow for independent and affordable living with ease of access to many amenities of the senior center and Skyview parks. As we consider these alternative housing options, though, we need to make sure the future development is architecturally appealing and complementing our surrounding neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, addressing affordable housing and workforce housing, that's one of my premier desires, is to go forward. And it's a heavy burdened conversation to have, but there is hope. I hear stories of suffering and fear out there along my path of out there talking to the public. There are families here on the edge of homelessness, and there are people fighting hard to make ends meet. To address workforce housing and senior housing in North Bend, several strategies could be really affordable housing initiatives, incentives to developers, community land trusts. We've also learned tonight, or learned more tonight, about our $1 million trust. That's incredibly important. We're also learning what that actually means, that we can have actual affordability using these funds where you do not have any market rate entity involved. It's really quite exceptional to think about and therefore possible. And I'm excited to go forward with that in mind and keep that going. We've had great success with Habitat for Humanity Build at Tylertown. Thanks to the Kursak family, both Heather Colin and I were able to work on that project. Therefore, we had first-hand knowledge and gained great experience as well, putting windows together, I should say. But also being there with the people, hearing the stories, made the flavor of the times that we're living in all the more imperative that we do something. We cannot sit on our hands or our heels, but we can be collaborative, we can be creative, and we should be excited to get going on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, between both sets of panelists tonight, I mean, everyone's had good ideas, and I think there are a lot of ways to tackle the problem. And in fact, I think it's going to take a lot of ways. It is a multifaceted problem. It's a big problem. I think it's the biggest challenge we face because any economic development that we want to drive, and I do agree with Councilmember Elwood that driving commercial development is a key top priority. Those folks have to hire people, and those people have to live somewhere. And if we can't get them a place to live here, then they're driving outside, and then we have commercial leakage and retail leakage, and it's a vicious cycle that we never really get out of if we can't solve the housing problem. So I do think that there are lots of ways there are lots of tactics. looking at the underutilized resources, maybe commercial properties that can be converted that are underutilized is an option. Certainly incentives to developers and partnerships with developers, as the mayor said earlier. It is a catch-22 because the only way to solve that is to build more, but as long as we're building the right kind of residential development, I think that's fair and that helps everyone. So we need to partner with folks. We need to drive incentives to get those down. And then using those funds, I've often thought of a stipend or something like that for essential workers, teachers, the firefighters, the police. How do we get them to be closer? Because a lot of them are commuting in from Clay Elum and Maple Valley and places like that. But I think the number one thing that we have to do is make it the priority of city leadership. If it is everyone's priority, then we can have these retreats, we can talk about it, and then we can all be just as passionate as Councilman Member Elwood and go out and drive solutions.
Thank you very much. And Christina, we're going to start with you for the third question. Crime is on the rise, and the current contract with the Snoqualmie Police Force is up in 18 months. What do you think the most effective way for policing to work? Sorry, let me rephrase that, or let me start that over. What do you think the most effective way for policing to work for the residents and businesses of North Bend is? We also understand that there are talks of contracting with other entities. How would a force further away be of benefit? What is your opinion on who we should contract with? And please defend your position.
So I'll just start by saying that when I moved to North Bend, it was King County that serviced the city of North Bend. And understandably, that is a large area. And so shortly thereafter, the contract was put in place for the Snoqualmie and North Bend, which significantly increased response times, improved response times. My role on my homeowners association, we would have a number of different issues, and we were always very pleased by the response from the Snoqualmie Police Department. And we found that to be a great solution for the community. Yes, we know that crime is on the rise. I think that means that all citizens must work together to try and address those issues. I'd be interested in hearing from the Snoqualmie Police Department what are some of the things that we could do as council members to help them more successfully do their job. I feel like they are doing a good job, and I appreciate their support. And we just want to partner with them to make sure that we can continue that into the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Rob?
I'd be happy. Could you repeat the first part of the question? I got a little lost in the introduction.
Yeah, no problem. I'll repeat the entire question for you. Crime is on the rise. The current contract with Snoqualmie Police Force is up in 18 months. What do you think the most effective way for policing to work for the residents and businesses of North Bend is? We also understand there are talks of contracting with other entities. How would a force farther away be a benefit? What is your opinion on who we should contract with? And please defend your opinion.
Okay, there's a lot in there. The number one statement in North Bend's vision statement and mission is to continue a high level of safety in the community. That's both police and fire protective services. And we do need to ensure that we maintain that. So, most effective policing, number one is making sure that we're investing in the people that are there to serve us. We need to be lobbying at the state level, as I did this past year, for fixes to legislative changes and court rulings that have made it much more difficult for our police force to carry out their duties. Things like pursuit and the revolving door of taking them to jail and watching them walk away again. We need to continue to build the partnerships as we have with other communities, including Snoqualmie, to better serve That included mental health as well as the regular policing services. I've been very pleased and proud that I was supported and endorsed by both the Police Association and East Side Fire and Rescue. I listen to them. I'm talking to them on a regular basis on what do they need, and we're looking at that. In regard to the idea of contracting with someone else other than Snoqualmie, my job is to look at options and bring those options to council for their consideration. I've been consulting with the council on whether they want us to look at those options. We were approached by Issaquah, and we've been suggested to look at King County again. I don't know that either of those solutions changes much, and the likelihood is that harder, stronger negotiations with Snoqualmie on a new contract are likely to bring us the best service for the expenditure of our funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather?
So
These are fun little legs. They
It
kind of
is.
bounce.
I wasn't fully aware that we were looking other contracts with other agencies, and so that's new to me. I do agree we need legislature to help our police, give them the tools they need to have to keep the public safe. I do remember when we were King County, when I first moved here, and I never had a problem with them. And now that we're Snoqualmie and North Bend together, and my grown children call them Snowpo, and they were terrified of them back in the day, not anymore. I have never had a problem with them. I do know that we are competing with all the other cities to retain and recruit police. And so on public health and safety, I have been highly aware of their needs and what they need to do to compete with the other cities. And I want to give them the tools to do that and make us the most desirable city to work for, because they are our force right now. And it's really complicated, but I want our police force to have all the tools they can. And I, at this moment, not interested in switching.
Thank you. Brendan?
Thank you. So there's a lot in that question, as the mayor pointed out, so I'll try to come at it from different angles and hit all of them. Number one for me in considering anything on a public health and safety issue, and that is our local government's primary objective, public health and safety. The number one criteria that I must look at to consider any new contract for anything that is in that category is level of service. We owe it to our citizens to have the best response time, to have the best customer service upon that response, and that level of service can never go down. Right now, we have exemplary level of services. In fact, our community survey pointed out high satisfaction with our local policing agency. So what that's telling me is the community likes where we are at. But level of service is number one. Number two is cost. Going outside of our current contract is going to be very expensive. We're going to have to draft it all anew. And you mentioned something about going and partnering with an agency further away. That leads to some other logistical nightmares. The benefits that we've had with partnering with Snoqualmie, number one, in talking with the officers, is jurisdictional issues. Snoqualmie and North Bend have a lot of similar laws, so it makes it easier for them to respond swiftly and accurately and keep that seamlessness of that level of service no matter where you are in the Upper Valley. So that jurisdictional component is very critical in this conversation. You mentioned contracts. I am always open as a council member. It's not my job. It's the mayor's job to actually come with options and things like that. Of course, we can be creative and poke holes at things, but our job is to evaluate anything that's coming to us. And I'm always open for contracts. But with the policing services and any public health and safety issue, those are my top two criteria. What is the level of service? What will the impact be if we change? What do the community members feel about the level of service that we're currently providing them? And what is the cost that it will be to the citizens? Because policing services is not cheap. It is not cheap. And we've worked ourselves into a great contract with Snoqualmie. I mean, there's some other sticky little things here and there, more contractual things with us. It has nothing to do with the police on the streets. So hopefully I've answered all your 5 different elements in that question.
Thank you. And Jason.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the great things about North Bend is it's a relatively safe place to raise kids, which is, you know, one of the reasons that we moved here. We are starting to see crime from the rest of King County migrate, which is typical. It's going to happen pretty much anywhere. I think, given how large a budget item policing is for us, I do think we need to look at our options. To Mayor Rob's point, I think we might be at a place where the best option is a tougher negotiation with the city of Snoqualmie. But, you know, right now, if you look at their data on level 1 calls, so calls of service, North Bend's level 1 calls are about, I think it's 25 to 30% more time to get to than Snoqualmie calls. Makes sense. They have less officers here than they do in Snoqualmie. I know we don't pay as much as they do in terms of the total expenditure for the department. But we need to look into those things and make sure that the level of service is what we want it to be for the future. You know, they recently fired the police chief without input from us. It's their department. We contract to them. They can do that. Is that the relationship that we want to have? You know, it's called SNOPO, but it's not really a partnership. It's a staffing, contract. So I think, again, we may end up in the same place, but I do think we should look at the relationship. Again, all the cops on the street, all the police on the street are doing a great job. But I think from a contractual perspective, our contract should have more teeth.
Thank you. And Mary.
Well, as your current council member, I'm always open-minded to different ideas, different viewpoints, and maybe the thought of checking out another location or another entity of our police force. But honestly, I think in saying that, I really feel like we really have to look at the Snoqualmie Police Department contract that we have, the partnership we have, really take a deep dive. I know we will in the future, and start there. I think there's great hope if we can collaborate and do a better job than we have currently been able to. And this is not the police department I'm talking about. This is the 2 entities of the cities. Together, we can really go forward in a better direction than we seem to be currently. Now, what I do know on a positive light is that there is going to be a new police officer who's going to be stationed mostly in North Bend, and he will be coming to us and graduating in November, and I plan to be there for his graduation. So that's good news. During COVID, we were down about 10 officers, which meant that we had very little protection in this town. That was a struggle. We saw a lot of people staying at home, but we had a lot of crime, and we had crime start growing towards the freeway mostly, and those individuals don't necessarily live in this town. They were coming from out of town. That currently is still happening. We are a smaller town by far. We have 88 miles of road here. Snoqualmie has 92, I believe, miles of road, and is a much larger capacity town, larger amounts of people there, and their budget is quite a bit substantially larger. I think we should delve into the contract. As I said before, I have a great relationship with our current interim chief police, Brian Lynch. I'm always open to conversing with anyone in the police department and go forward that direction. And we'll hope for the best. And protecting you is everything.
Thank you very much. And that ends the question portion. And we'll start with Jason and work our way down towards me. If you guys could take 2 minutes and summarize your campaign again. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for being here tonight and taking time out to sit with us. We've talked about a few topics tonight. I'm sure there's plenty more that are of interest to folks. I decided to run to try and steer North Bend in a renewed and positive direction. One where we invest in small businesses and commercial development, also listen to the will of the voters and residents, especially about what we want North Bend to look like in 20 and 30 years. And think about that in every decision that we make in council. I think that housing affordability for, especially for local workers and seniors, has to be a priority in council. And that's not just something that we say. We have to take action. Whether that's creating a task force or some other mechanism by which we can have real movement, we need to take action and move the needle. Everything else we want to do, all the other positive direction that we want to make, is enabled by that. You know, empowering small businesses, having a workforce is living here, powering the businesses, driving sales tax revenue, preventing leakage. All of that is driven by having a place where workers can live, functionally. So I don't have a political background. I don't have a background in real estate or development. I get no personal benefit from being on council. I have plenty to do. The only dogs I have in the fight are my kids. And I want this to be a great place for them to live. And I think we need to hold our leaders accountable to making progress. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Okay, as we stand on the threshold of a critical moment in our community history, I want to remind you of the power of unity. Together, we can build a community that thrives on the values of togetherness, accessibility, and collaboration. I am deeply committed to being a mayor who listens, who is present, who is readily available to each and every one of you. Our collective vision for a brighter tomorrow is achievable through our dialogue, shared aspirations, and the commitment to inclusivity. North Bend deserves a leader who understands the pulse of the community, who walks the streets, engages with the people, and truly embodies the essence of approachability. My promise to you is one of unwavering dedication and transparency. On my vision, every voice matters, every concern is heard, every idea valued, and I will strive for a North Bend where the bond between us is strengthened and where our future is a testament to the power of collective action. We can champion North Bend. Together, let us craft a North Bend where our children's dreams are nurtured, our seniors and veterans and businesses are cared for, and our community is a beacon of hope and prosperity. Thank you so much, and have a great night.
Thank you.
So I believe that there are many things that the city has done really well. Many people that I talk to in the community agree that increasing sidewalks and crosswalks has improved walkability, safety, and access to parks and trails. It has been great seeing new businesses open in the downtown, and people love our community events, such as the North End Block Party, Blues Walk, and Art Fair. The presence, professionalism, and service of our first responders has been excellent, is appreciated, and must continue to be a priority for us. Growth remains the top concern for residents as it directly impacts affordability, mobility, safety, and overall quality of life. Our direction for the future must balance the need and opportunity for growth while prioritizing and appreciating those that have already chosen to make North Bend their home and place of business. Choosing unmitigated development over our current citizens and business owners would be a failure of both leadership and stewardship, and threaten what we have enjoyed about North Bend for so many generations. We must ensure active outreach and engagement with our citizens and all stakeholders in our community, and make sure their voices are heard in any plans going forward. We must apply due diligence and thorough analysis to make informed decisions. Improving our outreach and connections to the community and our approach in addressing the challenges ahead will make sure that all needs and perspectives are considered, that the direction forward is a path we can be proud of. I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this event and all of you who have come out to learn more about the candidates tonight. Thank you to all the residents who took time to share their thoughts with me as I've been door to door at farmers markets and numerous local events. I've enjoyed getting to meet people and learn more about the issues facing North Bend. I've also enjoyed learning more about the government process that makes this city run. Finally, I want to thank my husband and family for their support during this campaign. I would appreciate your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. In a lifetime of service and business, I've been recognized over and again for my leadership and management abilities. On numerous nonprofit boards and city commissions, the members acknowledged my abilities by electing me chair or president. I've worked in small businesses, Fortune 100 companies, and built 2 successful businesses of my own. I even coached youth basketball for years, entrusted by parents to teach life skills while enjoying a sport. Both in private employment and now as the chief executive of the city of North Bend, I've led teams of dozens of smart, dedicated, and committed professionals. And I've built, executed, and been accountable for budgets in the hundreds of millions of dollars. North Bend remains, in its most important attribute, what it was when I arrived, a community of caring people reflecting our small town character. Our town has grown in measured, consistent steps pretty much since its founding in 1909. I think the diversity of our citizens enriches us and is a strength. I intend to maintain our small town character and the look and feel of our historic downtown while finding ways to accommodate affordable home choices, new businesses to serve us, and the infrastructure that protects us. I want to see through the plans to fix the McClellan Alley behind the businesses and next to the Depot Park, which we have recently approved a new plan for. I want to increase the parking for the patronage of our downtown businesses and find a solution to truck transit at exit 34. As your mayor, I'll continue to listen to your input, the citizens at large who make us who we are. And when making decisions that I feel are the best for the whole community, I'll do so while keeping the best to minimize any negative outcomes for individuals it may impact. The best way to know the people that are seeking these positions is to do the independent research to determine the facts. Find out more about me, look up my website, look up others. And if you'd like a personal conversation, please contact me. I'd be glad to make the time to meet you. I would be honored to receive your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Where to start? 2 minutes per segment. There's just too short of time to really recount all the great things that we've been able to do on council since I've been there. My commitment to the city is, as I said at the top, transparency, accountability, preserving and enhancing our small town character and charm, which is right on point with our city's vision, and continuing to focus on commercial development, commercial growth. And what I mean by that are businesses, retail shops, downtown, out in town, out on the town experiences, so that the folks that live here don't, 60% of them go out someplace else because they've gone through the roster of all the restaurants here. Do I want to eat out here again? No, I'm going to go someplace else. We need to have more options, and we need to keep doing that so that we can keep the money here, we can keep our residents here. That is my primary focus, is that economic push, and we've been successful at this. If you look at all the different businesses that we have since I started, it's astounding. But what I want to leave you with is, please go to my website to find out more, reelectelwood.com, just one word, reelect, because there's a lot in there that you can learn about me. But I did want to leave you on a couple notes, and these are my bearings, these are my commitments. This is the city's vision statement, and then a preamble that we just put to the state, essentially talking about where we stand on affordability. This is where I stand, and this is where we need experience in the coming term. City vision statement, in case you're unaware, the vision of the residents of North Bend put forth is one of preservation and enhancement. The community of North Bend wants to preserve its natural beauty and small town scale. The residents of the community also desire to enhance the built environment of the downtown, the riverfront, the community parks, new and existing residential neighborhoods, and the community gateways. That is our bearing. That is my bearing. And then just to leave you a little note, where
where we stand on affordability, because we have been putting stuff in motion. We're not just standing here waving our hands saying, what do we do? We're actively doing things. We have a whole list of things that will be coming out in Valley Record hopefully here soon. But let me leave you with this preamble to the state. The state's affordability targets for the city under the current GMA are not realistic, especially at the local level. Affordable housing requires true partnership with funding between the state, county, and Puget Sound Regional Council. Requirements for additional density and growth will only lead to increased market rate housing, continuing the lack of affordable housing. As a small city in King County with a population of approximately 8,000 people, the city is not in a position to be able to build or manage affordable housing by itself, which leaves us in an untenable situation. We understand the issue and we are working towards it actively. These are our critical points, and sorry to carry on, but I thought it was important that you hear those notes.
Thank you.
So thank you, Snoqualmie Valley Chamber, and thank you actually all for coming out on a rainy Monday night. Like, I applaud you. I was going to give you my platform, but it's kind of boring and everybody wants these things. Public health and safety, police and fire, protecting our open spaces, of course, and planning to make our city safe for pedestrians and bikes, of course. But I'm going to give you my vision of what I would like to see. And if you disagree, please reach out to me at heathercolin@northbendlaw.gov. But my vision for the future, I'd like to build a community town square, bring in a Trader Joe's or something similar, more restaurants on the east side of town, more businesses on the east side of town where I live, where we're sorely lacking and completely forgotten about, it feels like, and maybe a dog park somewhere. In my dream world, we would decrease the need for parking in downtown. This is my dream world, and we could build a trolley going down North Bend Way where you hop on, hop off, and you don't need to park. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause to all of our candidates tonight.
No, I have the ICER. The ICER is on my decision card.
They didn't put it in the decision card.
No.
And you'll notice the Snoqualmie candidates had to sneak out because they had a city council meeting starting here. But I want to thank everybody for their candor tonight, and I want to thank the audience, both here and at home via Facebook Live. I want to thank Kelly Coughlin with the Chamber again, and I'd like to thank the North Bend Theater, and as well as our helpers tonight. We have Kimmy, we have Michelle, we have Brittany, we have Brandon back there. And you guys get home safe, and thanks again for being part of this process.